This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right.
Oh, you got the sunglasses on. It's Friday.
That's right, baby. That's right. That's right. And you, fresh from a 4-day dark retreat, tell us how it was.
Hey, man, I wish I had that retreat like Aaron Rodgers did. You know, I'm sure there's all kinds of.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't want to be in a dark room for 4 days.
I like
no lights, and they slide some. Get the hell out of here. I want to be on a beach in Hawaii. Yeah. Okay, that's therapy for me, doggy. Sitting on the coast, watching the beach roll in, and they're bringing me a drink. Me and the wife are just kicking it, and that to me is therapy. There's something wrong with you if you want to be locked up in a room for 4 days. You got some demons or something you're trying to deal with, doggy, because the way I deal with demons, come on, man. Yep. Give me a cold one. I'm chilling out. I'm relaxing. That's all I need to do.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I love the sun. I can't imagine just being in the darkness, being someone's retreat. But, if you got medicine like Aaron Rodgers, maybe you don't remember any of those 4 days.
The mushrooms, and you're taking the mushrooms and all that. God bless.
Yeah. I don't know, man, but I'm with you, man. I
hope he's not doing cocaine, because then he'll be paranoid in the dark.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That would be really bad. Yeah, that would be really bad. By the way, what the hell happened with the Michael Irvin situation? Looks really, really like hairy, bro. Like somebody's getting bamboozled here. I kind of feel bad. I don't know enough about this. I don't know. Has anything else come out? Has that video come out yet? But I have a hard time believing that in 45 seconds, that poor guy gets kicked off for the week or anything. I'm dying to find out what the hell happened, because this is an odd story, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Mike is a teammate of mine, so I can't really go too depth in there. But
that's right. I forgot about that. It's definitely weird.
Yeah, it's something. It's something.
Yeah, I just kind of, it almost feels like an incident that should have been looked into a lot more before any kind of decision was made. That's what I wish would have happened, unfortunately. But he came back with some fire, $100 million and suing. So I'm glad. It's like when he was cleared of that stuff that he was accused of years ago. When he came back, come say it with the same kind of, vigor, enthusiasm, or fire, or whatever word. I forgot what adjective he was saying, because everybody was going after him. And then he was cleared, and it was like, well, come on, guys, let's go. Use the same energy when you clear me as you do when you accuse me, that kind of stuff. So I hope we kind of take a step back here and wait till everything comes in, because it's a really weird story. I just have a hard time believing that in 45 seconds, the whole world is going to end like that. It's just kind of odd. And anyways, by the way, everything that he's been through, you kind of figure, wow, that is weird, man. It's a weird story. Okay, I'll let you off the hook on that one. All right, I want to play a little shell game with you. Okay, the aforementioned Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, and Jimmy Garoppolo put the 3 teams they stay on when it's all said and done. No fence straddling, no and, if, buts, whatever. Where does Aaron Rodgers land? Where does Carr and Garoppolo land?
Okay. Interesting. So it's still early in the offseason, so this is not my full reporting. Right. But this is just sort of
it's a guess.
Bases off what I know now. I will say Aaron Rodgers ends up in Las Vegas with his good buddy Davante Adams, and they reunite there. They find a way, they make it happen. I will say that Derek Carr ends up in New Orleans with the Saints, but not via trade, via release and him signing with the Saints. And
by the way, doesn't make sense, right? If you're the Saints, don't you want to trade him because the salary right now is cap friendly at 40? You can actually adjust it if you want, but it's also it's a year-to-year contract too, where you can actually get out of it if it's not a good deal for you right away. If you sign him straight up as a free agent, you now have to give him a big ass signing bonus up front, and he's on your team for 3 years, guaranteed.
Yes, correct. There is two elements there, right? With Derek Carr, he has a no trade clause. So if he really wanted to play hardball, he could say, I am not accepting a trade anywhere, and push the Raiders' hand up into that February 15th guarantee deadline when they'll be forced to release him. And so, ideally, from Derek Carr's perspective, from what I understand, his preference is to be released so that he can have all his choice of what's going on in his free reign, get free agency. So if he wanted to take that route, he could certainly do that, and there's nothing that can stop him. The Saints right now are probably trying to convince him, because like you said, they give up a pick, but they also have the advantage of not having to compete with other teams for services, and at the same time not having to compete for a contract
and a friendly team friendly contract. Actually.
And the other thing about the Saints, although they find a way to manage it, they are not in a great cap space. They haven't been in the great cap space for years. They still have a huge number of Drew Brees contract on their cap, and so they have to navigate that as they go about this too. So I do think there's a partnership there with the Saints and Derek Carr that I think they make work, but maybe it's not in that trade route.
All right. By the way, next time you meet with Omar, just talk to him about that salary cap stuff, because he thinks it's
he says it's not real, right?
Yeah, it's not real. Yeah, it's not real.
And so the last one is Jimmy Garoppolo. Interesting. I'm not gonna straddle the fence here, but I'll say there's two teams I'm torn between. Tampa Bay, because they are going to need a quarterback, and Houston.
Wow, you left out the Jets.
I do not think that Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo becomes a Jet. I don't know what the Jets are going to do. Wow. But I do not have them in the mix or striking in the mix here. You know, I could be wrong.
They don't want another MILF magnet on the team?
It's still early in the offseason. And so there could be another quarterback that becomes available. But I'm just trying to picture the pieces, right? I say the Texans because of this. DeMeco Ryans is new head coach there. And he obviously has an experience with Jimmy Garoppolo being there in San Fran. The GM there, Nick Caserio, is a Patriot guy, which means he was a part of drafting Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think they've seen what they needed to see in Davis Mills to know that he is probably not the answer going forward. Now, you bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, it gives you a little bit of freedom for whatever happens. Say if you love one quarterback in this draft, they have the number 2 pick. Say if they love a quarterback at 1 and somebody trades ahead of them in Chicago and takes that pick and takes Bryce Young or whoever their preferred quarterback, they don't feel the need to force it at 2 if they have Jimmy. And Jimmy can be a stopgap, or he can be a guy as long as they need him to. And so that could be an option. Also, Tampa, this is a team with Todd Bowles, who is, let's just call it what it is, probably going to enter 2023 on the hot seat. And so he needs to win now. And he's probably not in a position where they could draft a quarterback and wait for him. So they are probably a team in the veteran quarterback mix as well. And so that's sort of what I would say I see happening. The Jets, that's an interesting team because they very much need a veteran too. But I don't know if I see an easy fix there. I mean, if they strike out on Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what their immediate route is, because they seem like an Aaron Rodgers or bust team.
I got to tell you, you make all the sense in the world with the move for Carr to New Orleans. There's no reason he has to take the hardline approach and go Kirk Cousins and get all the money you can and guarantees and all that. So you're right. He has to force the release, and he can't allow them to trade for him because that's a cap friendly deal for them, not for him. Mm-hmm. So you are right about that. And then the Houston thing, I have Garoppolo going to New York, so we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But the case you make for Houston is so good. And then here's the other thing that I hate to say this about Jimmy, but I don't think winning is his number 1 priority in life. And so if he goes to a place where he's wanted by the people, the coach and the front office guy, they're willing to give him the money, I think he's happy with that in itself. You know,
and again, and if there's sort of I don't know if there's a quid pro quo, but if there's a, hey, you're going to be our starter, to start the season.
Yeah.
And that's a lot better than, hey, you're going to go somewhere you can compete. Obviously, the Jets, that's the job where you can walk in and be the starter.
Oh yeah, he'll be the guy, please.
But if you're in a situation where you've got relationships with the head coach and the GM, you trust them a little bit more, they're giving you more money. I didn't want to pick the chalk all across the board. I want to get, like I said, this is not reporting. This is just my guess. And
that's good.
Jimmy G to the Texans is one that makes a lot of sense to me. Like you said, they're not a contender like the other teams I mentioned. But as we know, quarterbacks and players don't always pick contenders.
No,
a lot of times it's the relationships, the money, and maybe there's an idea that, hey, I'm with a team that's going to build. Maybe I'm a Ryan Fitzpatrick here where I can leave this team for a couple years and try to convince him I'm the guy because I'm younger than Ryan. But if not, then I get a pretty big bag. And, I'm vibing in Houston, which is warm.
Good insight. No, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. That it can go the way that you're definitely talking about it. I'm with you there. All right, let's get a prediction out of you. Philadelphia and Kansas City. What do you think?
Very good game. I am so pumped. It's going to be interesting because I get to watch this game at home and have some drinks, which I do not get to do at work. Give me the Eagles. Eagles 27-21. I will say that Patrick Mahomes has a great day, but he can't win by himself. And to me, I think the Eagles are better in nearly every quarterback every category outside of quarterback, tight end, and maybe head coach. Those are key categories, but the Eagles have a better offensive line. They have a better defensive line. They have a better overall defense. They have better skill position receivers. They have a better running game. And to me, ultimately, I think they're going to control the line of scrimmage. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to make that throw when he needs to make the throw. When everybody is saying all week, one of the craziest parts of Super Bowl week is how the 49ers are going about Radio Row talking about how the Eagles aren't this, the Eagles aren't that. We would have blew them out if we had our quarterback. And it just does not jive with me based on they beat this team by 24 points. They dominated them. I think the Eagles have something to prove, even as the quote-unquote favorites for this game. And I think they get their Super Bowl.
Don't the Chiefs have the most disruptive and dominating linemen?
The defensive linemen, Frank Clark and Chris Jones.
One guy, just one guy. The out of both D lines, who's the best player of them all? Right, Chris Jones, right?
You would say that, but here's one thing to think about with Chris Jones. Chris Jones, up until last week or the AFC Championship game, did not have a single playoff sack. He got his first playoff sack last year in the AFC playoffs, the championship game. So although in the regular season he's been a dominant force, I would argue that Chris Jones was the best defensive tackle in football this year, better than Aaron Donald, better than anyone. He was that dominant. But in the playoffs, he hasn't been that same player. I think the best defensive lineman on the field, or you can defensive front guy, however you want to call it, on Sunday will be Hassan Reddick, the Eagles pass rusher. He has 19 and a half sacks in the regular season, in the playoffs combined, most in the league. And he literally disrupted the whole 49ers plan by injuring Brock Purdy off that sack. And so I think that his pressure off the edge is going to really disrupt the Chiefs' right tackle, Andrew Wiley. And I think that he's going to be in Patrick Mahomes' face all day. So to me, I think he'll be the best defensive front guy. But Chris Jones is a force. But I think people are completely underrating how good this Eagles offensive line is. I can't remember an offensive line as good as they are. And I think that they will, I don't want to say stop, but slow down Chris Jones to where he is not a game wrecker.
Thoughts on Zach Thomas finally making the Pro Football Hall of Fame, something that a lot of us down here have been wanting for a long time. And we feel he got his due. What do you feel?
I love it. And I'll say this, just kind of being real. I was surprised. I looked at this Hall of Fame class and I was like, probably not this year. You got a deeper class, a couple guys who I thought might have got in, didn't get in. And so I thought maybe it was last year or the year before would have been the year he got in. But he has been well overdue. Zach Thomas, like
Well,
I
they didn't put
remember.
in a lot of linebackers in this one, so
No.
that's
He was
why.
going up against, the middle linebacker spot's a tough spot to get in. We saw Ray Lewis, we saw Brian Urlacher, but it's been slow for them. Like Patrick Willis may have to go through some of the same things that Zach Thomas went through. And now the 49ers fans are probably, because he was on the ballot too, and he didn't make
Right,
it.
but he's had the injury stuff. That's
Yes.
why his career was shorter than
Yes,
Zach's.
yes. It hit a peak. There was times when Patrick Willis was the best middle linebacker in football, but you're right. He's got the Terrell Davis argument to an extent, not to that full extent. Like Terrell, I think only had 6 years. I think Patrick Willis maybe had 8, but still, it's a shorter span that he was great. But I'm happy for Zach, like just seeing his emotion when Jimmy Johnson was upstairs in his house waiting for him to give him the note that he was in the Hall of Fame. Like, man, it hits you, right? It hits you because how many days, like they say the right things. If you don't get in the Hall of Fame, you say the right thing, like, hey, it wasn't my time, or I'll get him next year, that sort of thing. But I can imagine these dudes are hurt. You put everything into it. You're waiting for that moment and you get disappointed. Like all those years of disappointment, and to finally get it, I can't imagine what that celebration was like.
Well, remember, you could retire as a great player with a championship, and then you can kind of live with that.
Yep.
If you don't get into the Hall of Fame, you'll take it a little personal, but you got your championship.
Right.
But if you were a great player and you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame and you didn't win a championship, that kind of, leaves a void like, yo, man, I contributed more to the game than just this, just the stats. I deserve to be, remembered a little bit more. And so guys like Marino and guys like Jason Taylor and guys like Zach Thomas, they were great players. They just did not have the right elements around them so they could enjoy a championship. But individually, they belong in that building with some of the great players because they're not the first and they're not the last of great players that will go an entire career without a championship, unfortunately, because it's a damn team sport, dude. It's just not one or two guys are going to make the difference. No, man, you need several guys to get there. And so to me, that's probably the void that Zach had in him. And once JT went in a few years ago, that void probably grew even more for him because it was like, man, I'm, just like JT, I didn't win the title, but man, I gave a lot to football and I deserve
That's your
it.
Super Bowl. That's your Super Bowl, essentially, your post-career Super Bowl. And I argue it's even better. We're all team. But hey, you don't get, you get called a Hall of Famer, Zach Thomas, the rest of your life as far as your intro. Pretty much everywhere you're going to go, here's Hall of Famer. It's not always Super Bowl champion in front. It'll say former NFL linebacker, but you get a Hall of Fame linebacker, Zach Thomas. That's something special. And like you said, you're in a special fraternity. You don't have, it's not awkward, when we're talking Hall of Fame, when you're talking with your good buddy Zach Thomas. I mean, Jason Taylor. Y'all are equal. Y'all are in the same fraternity. And so I'm pumped for him. I'm happy for Dolphins fans because I didn't know how much the push was until I got here. Like, obviously, I grew up watching Zach Taylor, and I consider him right there neck and neck with Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher. I know Dolphins fans would say better, but I said to me, they were all in that same category of the 3 best linebackers of the generation I grew up in, really dominating quarterbacks. And so he was the last one who didn't get in. And so I remembered that, but just to see how Dolphins fans gave such a hard push and just shared the individual stories, because I saw it on TV from far away, but I didn't hear the individual stories of how connected you guys were as a fan base to Zach Thomas. And so I'm ecstatic for him. I'm ecstatic for Dolphins fans. And so it kind of felt like a wrong was finally righted when he got in.
And it's a good thing that you just said that, you could be a champion, but then you'll be a former champion because there'll be a new champion.
Right.
But you can't be a former Hall of Famer. You're always a Hall of Famer. That it won't be former champion. It won't be X this. It won't. No, it's Hall of Famer for the rest of your life. And that's a pretty cool thing. All right, what do you got going on the NFL Network? Nothing, huh? Just hanging out this weekend?
Nothing, man. Yeah, man. They don't need anything from me this week, so I'm hanging out. I'm gonna hang with the family. We're actually just breaking bread on our new house today. We've had it for a few months now, but we're gonna have people over for the first time, and have a housewarming, so to speak. So I'm sure as soon as I get off the call with you, my wife's going to have 17 things for me to do to get the house ready. And so we'll have that tonight. And then we'll watch the Super Bowl. And then I got a couple weeks of vacation planned before Combine. So, yeah, man, you get a short break and then you're right back in it. But I'm going to take advantage of these couple of weeks.
Butch Barry did not get very good reviews from reports out there. I know he gets a clean start here, so we can only judge him by what he does here, but it wasn't good at Things were kind of ugly in Denver. Just your overall view of Butch Barry so far.
Yeah, I saw a lot of the notes that you sent that were across social media were just not great, right? And so that's not the taste that you want in your mouth as a Dolphin fan when you're welcoming an O-line coach. I don't know the guy personally. And so for me as a reporter, I'm going to give him praise as if I know nothing about him. But at the same time, if you're a fan, all you have to go off of is what you read. And so what I think is he's going to have to prove that he's different, right? He's going to have to prove that he's different than what everybody's saying about him. And the reality of this is, especially in this era, the players have read that too. You know, the players have read all the comments on social media about him. Don't for one second think that, you know, a Teron Armstead or a Robert Hunt or a Connor Williams hasn't heard. They may do my route and say, hey, we're going to give him a clean slate, but they have heard it. And so it's in their mind. And so it's going to be up to him to convince people and to show people that he's different than whatever people are saying. And a lot of times you don't know. People are saying things because they had a bad experience or whatever. I will say this. I know that McDaniel has been with him in San Fran. And so for whatever his reason, he feels good about him leading this offensive line. And offensive line is a core of this offense. So it's going to be a zone blocking scheme, which he has done before. I don't think that was a great fit in Denver because they were trying to run some man blocking schemes, and he's a zone blocking guy. But I will say, like, with Butch's story and with the history of offensive linemen cycling through here with Miami, it's just like the continued cycle, right? If we can have an offensive lineman coach for more than a year, it would be a miracle. So, you know, it's such a huge part of this team. We talk about the quarterback so much, but this offense has made improvement. But for them to reach that next level, they need an offensive line coach that can continue to develop these young dudes. You know, you don't need to develop Teron. Teron's going to be fine. You know, but you need to develop your Liam Eichenbergs, your Austin Jacksons, even continue development with Robert Hunt. These are the guys who are going to make or break whether you are a average to below average offensive line versus being a good or potentially great offensive line.
On the way out, Dougie Fresh just wants to tell you there on the chat board, tell Cam I'm running a special on my Panhandle Darkness retreats. It's located in a panic room of a Piggly Wiggly near the customer bathroom. So there you go. So I can
Wiggly reference. I love it. I'm from Mississippi, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. My grandma's house is still right across the street from Piggly Wiggly. I don't know there's many states that still have Piggly Wiggly still.
They're all gone here. We had them here a long time ago.
But my home state of Mississippi, we're always 20, 30 years behind the rest of the country. And so Piggly Wiggly is still the main shopping area, but I will not be in that dark house. Sorry. I prefer my mild sunlight. And matter of fact, I'm about to go outside right now and get some more of it.
Follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe. Have a great weekend, my brother. Enjoy the party. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk on Monday or Tuesday. We'll talk on Tuesday.
Sounds good, oh.
You got it. There you go. Cameron Wolfe, baby. We unleash the Wolf Pack.